It's Chris Titley here. As part of this week's Scoreboard episode, I'm joined by Hannah Young. Hannah, thank you so much for being part of the series.
Thanks so much, Chris, for having me. It's good to be along.
2024, we're in, what's the 9th of December, getting on already this year. How's your 2024 been?
Yeah, it's been a really exciting year. So took the leap this year and started racing as a professional. So that's been really nice to dip my toes into the elite field. I've raced in 3 different countries and had a pretty big year in terms of races, a few good results. Lots and lots and lots of learning. It's just been an all-round fantastic experience, and I'm really excited to build on what I've learned this year coming into 2025.
So when people ask you what you do for a living, what do you say now?
I don't like to say that I'm a full-time athlete, but a lot of people might beg to differ. I'm really fortunate. But, yeah, I basically train at the moment like a full-time athlete and have a job at the local swimming pool on the side just for extra cash and a bit of social
and the sport that you compete in, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I compete as an XTERRA athlete. So XTERRA is off-road triathlon. So it's essentially the same distances as an Olympic distance road triathlon. So we normally do either a 1K or a 1,500 metre swim, and that's done in like a dam, a lake, or the ocean. And then we do a mountain bike ride, which is generally quite technical, hilly. It's obviously very off-road. Normal distances are roughly 30 to 35 kilometres long. And then we do normally a 10-kilometre trail run straight after the bike. So it's quite grueling. It's very taxing on the body, but it's just so much fun being out in nature and really being at the mercy of the elements.
Yeah, right. So when did the spark for like, let's try this come about?
So it sort of started, my partner signed us up for this off-road triathlon, which was a local one on the Sunshine Coast. And it was just a way to sort of, I guess, get fit and do something exciting after, the COVID years. And we were just sort of trying to find a sport that we could do together. And that was a little bit out of the box. So yeah, we signed up. I brought a marketplace bike, secondhand. I hadn't ridden a mountain bike since I was a kid and just started riding it a bit more. He's a really good swimmer, so he led the charge on that. And then, we started running and doing a little bit together. And then we entered the race. I did the sprint distance, so it's a shorter, basically. It's 1/3 of the full. And I won. I had a cracking race. I actually broke my bike during the bike segment, and I ended up having to run the last 800 meters back to transition with my bike over my shoulder.
And you still won?
Yeah. I was very determined. I'm not a quitter. I was crying. I was really upset because I was having a good race, and then when I won, I was so stoked. I thought it was the best thing in the world.
Wow, there's a little bit of instinct that kicked in there to go, right, we've got nothing to do. We just need to cross the finish line. So that's the only way, right?
100%. I think I'd been training and I felt really committed to this race. And I just thought, why would I quit? I can still finish it. And I just didn't give up and kept going. And I think from that moment on, I sort of saw a little bit of all right, there's a little bit of passion here. Let's continue this journey and see what else I can sort of bring out of myself. And just since that moment, I found myself again in a way. I'd sort of, been a bit lost, wasn't really sure what direction I wanted my life to head in. And as soon as we sort of went all in on this sport, it just became really apparent that this is what I want to do. So
I was going to say, the moment of going all in on the sport, did you do some research on the sport to know that there is an all in? It was a bit of a tricky one to go, actually, how far can I go?
Yeah, it wasn't until after that race that we sort of got a little bit more into it. So I think when you find something you're passionate about, you obviously do a bit of research. And so we started listening to some good podcasts, which, there was podcasts from some really high-level athletes in the sport that were really interesting, especially local athletes from Australia. And then on one of these podcasts, they were talking about the multisport world championships. And Luke and I were like, wonder where they are next year. And we looked it up and they were in Ibiza. And we
Right.
Like, how do we
So a little bit of
qualify?
doof with a little bit of high performance extreme triathlons.
Yeah, let's put the two together. So we got excited about that and thought, and we just looked it up. It was all through Oz Triathlon, the qualifying races, what you needed to do. And that was pretty much the pursuit of, okay, let's do everything we can to try and make it to race in Ibiza and represent Australia. And that was a catalyst for it. And yeah, haven't looked back since. So,
and what did you have to do to get there then?
basically, there's a few qualifying races. So normally like an Australian championship race, if you place top 3, no, I think it's top 5 in your age group in one of those races, you automatically qualify to represent. Otherwise, you accumulate points. So there's a series in Australia called Into Adventure or Treks, which is an off-road triathlon series. And a lot of those races were qualifying races. So we just went to as many of those as we possibly could, got to Australian Championships in October 2022, and I won my age group there and won the overall female across the line. So that was basically my ticket to Ibiza, and from there on it was just a matter of training and doing everything I possibly could to have the best race.
And going to Ibiza, do you want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, it was mind blowing. So Luke and I went over together. We had an Airbnb with a friend who was also racing. And yeah, the course was really, really challenging. So at this stage, I only started riding a mountain bike in October 2021. I'd done a few races, through 2022. So Ibiza was May 2023, and went over. It was absolutely beautiful. We loved it. We were staying in a really nice little area away from the crazy party scene because obviously we weren't there to do anything.
You were focusing.
We were really focused, and the trails were dusty and rocky and quite technical and quite challenging. But we were over there for about 3 weeks, so we gave ourselves the best possible chance to really have a good go at it. So Luke, my partner, he also raced in his age group. So it was something that we got to do together. And then, I got to race day and I channeled everything that I'd learned and that I trained for. And I had the race of my life and did really well and ended up, winning my age group in the world. So I was 25 to 29 year age group world champion and 4th female age grouper over the line.
Overall in the world. Yeah,
so it was a pretty emotional moment. I just put so much hard work and dedication towards it, and Luke, like we just sacrificed, I think, a lot to get there, and to have a result like that, it was the best.
It meant the world, yeah. In regards to the preparation, obviously you got over there earlier to do a bit of research and understanding. I mean, how important is that? Obviously, if you'd rocked up a day before, it would have been a little bit tricky on what's going. Well, this is not what I'd thought.
Yeah,
and you were obviously really, really focused on that. But how do you prepare for a race and such a big race like that?
Yeah, so something like that, I like to get over there with ample time because you just don't know what's going to happen, especially with mountain biking. It's such an unpredictable sport. You could be in a training, like in Ibiza, for example, I was on a training ride and I was wearing my new Australian suit for the first time just to sort of see how it felt. I fell off and I tore a hole in the bum. And I was like, oh my God, it was the end of the world. I was like, no, what have I done? And I just felt so disappointed in myself. And my friend came to the rescue and ironed on a patch and fixed it up.
Yeah.
So we were pretty lucky. But yeah, I get over there and I like to be there if I can before other people arrive, because I tend to get quite caught up in the excitement and the social side of other people, and that can sometimes be at my own detriment. So we got over there and we just made sure we knew every corner of the course. The course wasn't properly marked out until maybe a week before the race, so we'd actually taken a lot of wrong turns and thinking what the course was very different to what we were riding. And before I raced, I did something that I hadn't really done before, and I wrote a plan out, like a step-by-step from the morning. The race was in the afternoon, so I wrote everything I was going to do that day and then step-by-step plan throughout the whole race, from the start line at the swim all the way to the end of the run. And I did that a couple of days out from the actual race, and I just read it and I went over it and over it. And I got it all in my head, and I just knew what I had to do on the day off by heart. And I think that mental preparation was key to the success, and just to having a really smooth and solid race.
So this is episode 16 on Scoreboard, and you're the third guest that has talked about the importance of visualization, around visualizing and planning ahead. Like there was an AFL player, Dale Morris, that used to go 3 hours before anyone, even though it was an indoor stadium, he'd played there 100 times, to walk around and to plan. Were you visualizing that race, or were you, like, obviously the step-by-step plan, did it all go to plan, or was there a little bit of like, oh my goodness, this is not part of the plan, what do I do?
There was definitely a moment. The bike, as soon as you came out of the swim and got onto the bike was really tough at the start. Like your heart rate was so elevated, and there was a good climb. So in XTERRA, there always tends to be a nice climb straight out of transition where you get the heart rate up, and it sort of breaks any packs that have formed in the swim apart quite a lot. I do remember like struggling sort of on the first lap of the bike, and one of the fellow Aussie teammates saw me and she just said, just remember to take your nutrition. And I think in the moment I'd forgotten a bit, and that reminded me, okay, like just calm down and just, do all the right things, take your nutrition, get some carbs back in, get some energy back. And that was really nice. And then after that, it was all good. And I cramped quite a bit on the run, so I don't feel like I was able to run to my full potential without, if I was overstriding, I would just cramp straight away, and that was going to take longer than, anything else. So apart from that, everything else went according to plan, and I visualized it. I knew what I had to do. I knew every single section of the course that I had to attack, and I had to ride smooth in. So it really assisted. Yeah, I think it's a big part of my race plan and having a good race.
Did you visualize you winning?
No. I was very vocal about my goals and what I wanted to do. And I think for me, I'm not actually a very good visualizer. Like I struggle to sit down. I struggle to think and be in the moment a lot of the time. So that's why like writing something down really helps, because I can actually read it and I soak it in that way. But in terms of, winning, I was pretty out there with what I wanted to achieve on that race. And I guess that in a way is manifesting a result. And I came through with it. So.
What did you want to achieve out of that race?
Yeah, I wanted to win my age group. I wanted to be a world champion.
Yeah, so you did want to win. Obviously, everyone wants to win, but you didn't visualize yourself being on the podium with the medal around your neck and going, this is nothing's going to stop me.
I don't think so, because I didn't know what that was going to look like. I'd never been in, like, I'd won races and I had medals and I've been on podiums and stuff, but I think at that level it's such a different scale. It just feels like such a massive deal, and I hadn't really visualized it at all, but I'd made it my point very clear that that's what I intended to do. So.
And our previous podcast with Lauren Hume, she was talking about what goes through her head during a race, and she hums the lyrics to High School Musical, does some mathematical algorithms and algebra, and also looks at other people's names and sort of like yells out to them randomly.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Now, you're a good friend of hers. Through that race, your race, what is going through your head?
I like to have a bit of a motto that I've adapted, and I try and just tell myself to get from point to point. It's a phrase that a good friend said to me not that long ago, and I think I can't really remember what was going through my head back then. I guess I just try and focus on what I've got ahead of me a little bit. Like, it stops me from hurting in the moment. I think another strategy that I've used is counting up by twos. So I go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And I feel like that also takes my mind away from the pain, because you suffer so hard and you dig so deep. And that's probably the only two strategies I really use. It's funny because it depends what racing we're talking about. Like yesterday I was racing an XCO mountain bike race, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, how do I run 10K off this bike? Like, how do I do that in a triathlon when you're absolutely hurting going up a hill, like redlining for an hour? Like, why do I do this sport? Yeah. But at the end of it, I just absolutely love it, and it's what gets me through.
Yeah, okay, 2 questions on that. How far do you go on the twos? Do you go up to like 20 and then reset, or do you keep going to 100? Or no?
Normally 20. I think counting's a very it's a strategy I use a lot, like bike sessions, everything. If I'm counting my pedal strokes, it makes the intervals go a little bit quicker. But yeah, just to 20.
And the second question on that is your relationship with pain. It's probably a very grueling sport. I'd imagine there's some niggles and also some walls that get hit through the race. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's hard. Like, obviously, I think you train for it as well. So in training, the same thing occurs, and you learn how to push through, and you learn your cues and everything. Like I do a lot of counting. That helps. So counting up by twos, especially if I'm in a tough section of the course, like a hill or something, or it's just a matter of staying 1 foot in front of the other. Because I'm normally breathing like crazy and I'm really, really struggling. But I just know that if I'm not pushing through the pain, then others behind me or in front of me are pushing through the pain, and I need to be suffering just as much as everyone else. Or the other thing is, I know that if I'm suffering really hard, others might be suffering really hard too. So that's sort of like a bit of a catalyst for me to go even harder, because I think if I'm hurting that much, then surely, people who might be chasing me for a position or running away from me will be hurting as well. So it's almost your friend in a way when you're racing. You have to utilize the pain and use it as a tool to be a bit strategic. And yeah,
sounds like you got a lot of resilience. You're very competitive and you're very focused, because to do something like this needs a great deal of focus, structure, and also the desire to improve and desire to win. Where do you reckon that competitiveness has come from?
Oh, my mum. I love this story. I remember when we were kids and I used to play so much sport, because I actually grew up in a country town in the outback in New South Wales, and sport was all we had. Like it was a little mining town. We had a great community, but sport was just everything to everyone. It was where everyone would hang out on weekends. We'd all go watch the football. And so we were lucky, like we were exposed to lots of different sports, and basketball was probably my favourite. And I used to play for hours out in the backyard, basketball. And Mum would come, and I'd be, Mum, come play basketball with me. And she was so ferocious. And she just was so competitive. And I was like, wow. And then even now, I see her, she plays lawn bowls, and she just gets so into it. And sometimes she has to pull herself back because she's been too competitive. She's like, oh no, it's a bit too much. I always want to win.
It's a bit too much for a Tuesday lawn bowls at 9:30 with my friends. But anyway, I'm going to win and make sure my friends know that I've won. So
yeah, exactly.
And so did she sort of, when she played basketball against you, she was like, right, I'm going full throttle here. I'm going to smash
the ball straight out of my hand. She was so quick, and I'm like, Mum, geez, calm down.
Don't dunk on your kid, you know.
No, she's gold. So I think, yeah, the competitive spirit's been there since I was a kid. Like, I was always driven. I was always determined. I would win. We'd have our swimming carnival and athletics carnival every year. It was the best highlight of my year. I loved it.
What did little Hannah want to be when she grew up?
Little Hannah wanted to be many things. I went from a vet, then a marine biologist, which probably ties into another story. And then I was like, I really want to be a basketballer. And I tried so many different things, but I actually never really knew what I wanted to be. I think I went all through high school not really knowing, and then I had the opportunity to do an electrical apprenticeship. So I was like, year 10, I'm going to do that school-based. So I worked 2 days a week, went to school 3 times a week, and I thought, this is great. By the end of year 12, I'll be a first-year apprentice, move into full-time work, and I just had my head in the clouds. And my boss at the end of year 12 was like, Hannah, I don't think this is for you. I think you should go and do something that you're really passionate about. Like, it's not really, you're not mechanically minded enough to be an electrician. Like, I just think it's not an avenue you should continue to pursue. And I was furious. I said, what are you talking about? Like, I'd never been fired from a job. I felt absolutely defeated. And so I went and found the only other electrical company in town, and I said, can you please take me on as a second-year apprentice? And he was like, oh, okay, and did so. And, yeah, and I absolutely hated it.
Right, okay. So there was a little bit of truth, potentially.
There was a lot of truth. I didn't want to accept it at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, oh, thanks, Miles. You were spot on there. But, yeah, I hated it. And I was like, wow, okay, I really don't want to do this. So I ended up quitting in my second year, and then kind of just dabbled in lots of different things. I had like 3 jobs. I was traveling a lot, and then decided to become a dive instructor.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a marine biologist early in that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a sort of a combination of passions into the diving instructor.
Yeah.
And so you became a diving instructor.
Yeah. So I went as far away from Little Cobar as I possibly could to get away from, not escape, because I love my town and everything, but I just needed to do something just completely different. So I moved to Cambodia.
Right, Cobar to Cambodia.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, very, very different. But yeah,
from being a sparky basically to underwater, not being a sparky, being a diver. Yeah.
Well, it was either skydiving or scuba diving, and scuba diving felt a little bit more cost effective. So skydiving was a bit too expensive, so I gave that up and went scuba diving instead. And ended up. It was the best thing I ever did. I loved it. I found my niche. I found something I was really good at and really passionate about, and ended up living in Fiji for 3 years, working at one of the most luxurious resorts in Fiji, taking some wonderful people diving, making some incredible friends, and then ultimately that's where I met my partner, Luke. He wasn't like one of the wealthy people that came to the resort.
He wasn't a client.
No, he wasn't. He was working for the same. There was one man who he owned the resort, and he also had a boat in Sydney. So my partner worked for him, and that's how we sort of met and got together. And when I left Fiji, I came back to Australia, and that was
it sounds like your partner Luke and you were both very active, and you train together still.
Yeah, not at the moment. He's got a little bit of a hip injury, so we're waiting for that to, once he's recovered from that. He'll definitely start training with me again, but we're very competitive with each other. So up until he had his hip injury, like we had the same coach for quite a while. So she would set our sessions the same, and he's a phenomenal swimmer. So he's really helped me put in a lot of work in my swim, and he's always there on pool deck and swimming with me. And then, he was running. He's a strong rider. So I think that's how I became better as an athlete, because I was just chasing him around for the last couple of years, and maybe more mentally resilient and tougher, but now he's just full-time support, and he's doing a really
full-time support, which leads me on to the next question around what you're doing next year.
Yeah.
And the sacrifices that you need to have made or need to make, and we'll talk about what you're doing next year, but also other people say that they become a little bit selfish when it comes to what they want to achieve, and people come along for the ride, and other people call it an investment in you and your support crew that want to back you. I mean, the sacrifices that you've made to get to where you are now, can you talk about how important that support crew is? Yeah,
so I'm extremely fortunate. I feel like, I know everyone says this, I honestly feel like I have the best support crew in the world. Like in terms of my sponsors and my partnerships that I've already got on board, like they believe in me 120%. Like I'm so lucky. Obviously I've got my partner Luke, who he holds me together, honestly. Like I can get very narrow-minded, and I guess I have a one-track mind, and I put the blinkers on, and he really helps take the blinkers off and just brings everything together. I've just recently brought on the support of Nicole and Claire at Inner Sports Sanctum Management. So they're working away always in the background, assisting me with brand sponsorships and partnerships as well to help sort of with the year ahead. And then I've got, quite a few. I've got a really good local bike shop that have believed in me from the beginning. So they're huge. Like they support me so much, and they're really good people. So I just love giving back to them as well. And then my family, like everyone's just so, like encouraging, and Luke's family is just absolutely beautiful. Like his mum and dad, because my mum and dad don't live on the Sunshine Coast, but his parents do, and they always come and watch me race, and they get so into it, and they'll give me time splits, and I just feel so buoyed up by such a wonderful group of people. And I say it a lot, but I feel like you're only as strong as the structures that support you, and my group, they're really, really strong. So I feel like I've got the best team around me, and I've got some really good people backing me. So I'm really lucky.
And next year, 2025, a massive year. Do you want to talk about your calendar next year and what you're doing?
Yeah, so XTERRA have done something really brilliant, and I guess a lot of the other triathlon companies are doing the same thing with Ironman series, the T100 series. So we've got an XTERRA World Cup series, which has been running for 2 years now. So basically it's an 8-stop series. So you have 8 different races throughout the year. It starts in Western Australia with XTERRA Asia Pacific Champs at the end of March, and it will run through to the XTERRA World Championships in Italy at the end of September. So for 2025, I've committed to at least 7 of those races, and I have the goal I would like to finish in the top 10 in the World Cup Series rankings at the end of the year. It could be, it's a pretty big goal, but I think I'm pretty dedicated and I'd like to achieve it. But in order to do so, you really need to hit as many races as you can to accumulate as many points as possible. So that means I'll be traveling to 3 different continents and spending a good chunk of the year over in Europe preparing. I'll do an altitude block over there and just giving myself the best chance, because unfortunately in Australia, the conditions that we have are nothing like what they have in Europe. And in Europe, off-road triathlon's a very strong sport. It's not as strong in Australia. It's probably why a lot of people don't hear about it, or I guess a lot of people probably don't think of it as like pure triathlon, which is fair enough. But if you actually give it a crack, you'll realize it might even be tougher because it's extremely challenging. But yeah, so we've committed to that. It's a big year. It's a big financial investment. So we are currently trying to seek like financial, I wouldn't say a sponsorship, because I don't want to just ask for money for someone to fund me to go overseas and train and race, but more of a partnership. So something that hopefully I can give back in return for what someone will help give me to make my dreams a reality.
I was going to say, the sport itself being so prominent in what you're doing and being an Australian athlete, like how much education and awareness that you may need to do as well to sort of bring the sport along.
Yeah, I try and do as much as I possibly can. So things like jumping on podcasts really help grow the sport. And obviously I want to leave the sport in a better place. And I found it like it's already on the rise. It's already growing. There's more people getting into trail running. There's more people getting into mountain biking, and then the open water swimming aspect, it's becoming more popular as well. So just tying the 3 together and being able to train and get out there in nature. I just think it's a sport that hopefully will continue to rise and people will continue to be aware of and want to get involved in. I can understand maybe the risk factor that people see, especially if you are a road triathlete. Mountain bike training, there's obviously a risk element, but
Yep.
I mean, so is riding on the road. So
yes.
It's just, I love it. I love the community. I love the camaraderie between the athletes, and I just love the places that it takes you. So whatever I can do in terms of promoting it and getting the word out there. We've been really lucky with the World Cup series. They have been live streaming a lot of the races. So that's been really special. Everyone at home's been able to watch it. Like my friends that I grew up with in Cobar had no idea about off-road triathlon. When I raced in Taiwan in March, they sat down and watched 3 hours of live stream off-road tri, where I think I was only shown maybe for a couple of minutes of that whole 3 hours, but they were just watching it because they just wanted to maybe hopefully see me again. And I think that alone speaks volumes. Like people are engaging in it, and by having it out there and being live streamed and having being able to watch what I do and compete, it's helping to get the sport out there. And with live stream on YouTube, you can always go back and watch it as well. So that's really helpful. But it's growing, it's getting there, and
the rise of Instagram and social media and short form videos, etc., has that helped a little bit as well?
100%, yeah. And I guess that's the platform that we all use now to help spread awareness and to show our passion for our sport. It's a learning curve, that's for sure. Using that to your advantage and sort of, I guess, promoting yourself and creating a brand for yourself. But it is a good platform because it's also really engaging. So one of my favorite things is I get lots of people, send me a message in my inbox and ask me about off-road triathlon, and lots of people always have questions, and it's a good way for me to engage with the audience and spread the word and try and get more people involved, especially women. So
are you sort of naturally transparent and open? Have you got a personality that suits Instagram, or has it been a little bit difficult?
No, I'm very, very open book. It's probably my, I don't know if it's my best trait sometimes, but no, I'm very transparent. I like to share the highs and I like to share the lows, and I'm very good at having a laugh at myself, and I'm a bit goofy and a bit silly, but I take it really seriously too. And I like to share all the different sides of life, and I make sure that my Instagram and what I put out to the world is not just about the training and the racing and all the serious sort of stuff, but I'm very grateful for where I live. I'm grateful for my friends and my partner, and I like to share how we will go to somewhere and we won't just race, but we'll make it an experience. And I think that's a part of enjoying the sport and longevity in the sport as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, during the overseas races, do you actually enjoy the scenery and things, or is it you just too focused on the race that you don't look left? It's a beautiful view, but we'll just keep running.
No, I'm so grateful for everything and every part of it, and it gives me energy. I think like going to a new place, trying new foods and exploring new cultures. Like somewhere like Taiwan was such a unique experience, especially with nutrition and things. It's a challenge trying to. It sounds funny, but we're just trying to find some rice that we could eat and just trying to suss out the best way to do that. And then if we have the time, like we will try and stay for 3 or 4 days after the race and soak it up and actually explore and do a little bit of traveling around. And it's always got an active component to it though, so we're still getting fit, and if I need to keep training, we can slide that in somewhere as well. But I think that's part of it. If you're going to commit to racing and you're going to commit to exploring or going to all these different parts of the world, you have to allow yourself a little bit of time to actually enjoy those places as well.
What are you most looking forward to in 2025?
I think just seeing what I'm capable of. I think I've just recently swapped coaches, and that's been like a different training stimulus. So that's been really exciting. So just seeing, I guess, what we can achieve in the year ahead in terms of like how we can level up from this year, and just thinking a little bit differently. And just, I think as a sport where you're always evolving, especially mountain biking, like skills, all the different courses that you go and you experience, all that every terrain's so different. So like one place might be a real sandy, gravelly, like Western Australia is really pea gravel and quite slippery, and it's a different style of racing to going to Italy where it's rooty and muddy and forestry. And so I think just really adapting and soaking up as much as I possibly can, and just trying to really give it my all and just, I don't know, show the world what I'm made of, I guess.
Yeah, and then the whole podcast that I've started called Scoreboard is about the scoreboard of life. You're setting your goals and where you want to be. It's not just about your performance, it's also about you and where you want to be. Have you ever thought about life beyond off-road triathlons yet?
Not a great deal. I think I know what I'm passionate about, and I'd love to still be involved in the sport in some degree, post like racing career.
Yep.
I love helping and motivating and mentoring, if I could be a mentor to the younger generation coming through, I think that would be a really fulfilling and rewarding role. Not sure what capacity yet. I haven't really thought too much about it, but yeah, just see where the wind takes us. Luke and I are a bit nomadic. We've only just recently brought an apartment on the Sunshine Coast, and that's been really special to have a home base. But the other day we were talking about, wouldn't it be nice to go over and work in Tonga for a season? And we're just random. We just sort of throw it to the wind, and we sort of seem to land on our feet a little bit and get lucky. But yeah, I guess anywhere with Luke is where I want to be. So I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
And then some advice for young boys and girls that are playing sport. You grew up in a country town or a mining town that was really focused on sport, from footy to basketball and different different types of sport. And Australia's a wonderful country when it comes to sport. We've got the Olympic Games coming up in 2032. What's some advice for the younger Hannah out there who has just picked up a ball and goes, this is pretty good?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things, especially as a kid, is to try as many different sports as you can and see what you really enjoy. I think it's very easy, and I guess it's almost out of your control as a child. You sort of, you're in the hands of your parents really, and what either A, they can afford to allow you to play, or B, like what they allow you to play, because at the end of the day you need their permission. But just show, if you're passionate about a sport, show it. Like, go out, practice, express your feelings, tell people how you feel, tell people your intentions. There's obviously naturally talented kids out there, but there's also a lot of kids that put a lot of hard work into the background. And if you're passionate enough about something, I think it's hard because you want to go all in, but you're young and you need to experience life and stuff as well. But I think just try everything. Try as much as you possibly can. So you really, when you find a sport that you really love, that that's what you really possibly might want to do. And have fun. Just enjoy it. It's not the end of the world if you're winning or losing. It's all part of the process, all part of the learning curve. And eat. Please eat. I think it's such a common theme, especially in young female athletes. That's been really circulating, and there's been a lot more awareness of it now, is that, eating, making sure you fuel your body, fuel yourself for performance. It's not about how you look, or it's about how you feel. If you don't have the energy, it's going to be detrimental on your body, in your later years. But if you learn nutrition, you learn how to fuel, you learn how to eat properly, it's going to set you up for success if that's what you want to pursue.
That's the first time I've heard that in regards to food and nutrition on this podcast, and I've been dealing with a few companies out there that and boards, etc., where it's talking about nutrition at an early age at school is so important for people, and even as adults. If you go into a meeting and you're hungry, or you go into a presentation to listen to something and you are hungry, you get hangry, and you get hangry. All you think about is food, right? So, how have you managed to make sure that you're continually on top of your nutrition and your food and eating the right thing, whether there's right or wrong, but eating the right thing for your own preparation?
So I feel like I came into the sport of triathlon at a really good time. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts that really touch on topics of energy deficiency disorder and all these things that can happen. And I was so scared of that happening to me. So I really, really made sure that I understood my nutrition and I did all the right things. And then when I was confused, I reached out to some sports dietitians. So I had one lady that helped me for a long time. So she was doing my weekly meal plans, and I would just stick to that. And at first it looked like so much food, but then I would just go through it because I was so hungry because I was training so much. And now I've got a nutritionist on board who helps me, once a month we sort of touch base, and she's been amazing. And then Luke and I, obviously we live together, so we make sure that we've got a dinner schedule, and then we have a couple of flexible days thrown in there so we can enjoy a meal with friends. I'm not one of those athletes that I can't eat the same thing every single day. I need variety. Like, I need to still have the aspect of life to enjoy, because that helps me perform better at the end of the day if I'm happy. And part of that is food and being able to enjoy the foods that I do like. But yeah, I just make sure I incorporate it into my life where I guess it's most appropriate. So.
What's your go-to favourite food?
What is it? I love Guzman and Gomez. I love their burritos. They're sensational. So yeah, post-race, if I can get my hands on a Guzzy burrito, I'm stoked. I love it.
The mini or the normal?
Oh, the normal.
The normal? Spicy chicken?
Yeah, spicy chicken or pork.
Yeah. That's pretty good, isn't it? The kids love it as well.
Burrito.
Well, there's a future sponsor for our podcast out there. Stephen Marks, if you're listening, the founder, dial on in and, we're all winners with Guzman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What can you ask for?
Hannah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming in and being part of the Scoreboard podcast, giving a little bit of a glimpse into your life and little Hannah growing up into where you are now into off-road triathlons. And obviously next year is such a big year for you. I wish you all the best, and you've now got a fan that will be following you and watching you on live stream and picking up your results and sending you messages and well wishes and looking forward to catching up.
Appreciate it, Chris. I look forward to having your support. Thanks so much for having me. It's been fantastic.